this a discussion worth having? Are we at a point that your alarm bells are ringing with regard to tribalism?
Oh, absolutely, Linda. I mean, it is absolutely necessary for this discussion to take place. I mean, I can say going back from 2008 up to now, I mean, for me, it's just shocking to see where we came from, where we got to in terms of bringing the nation together after 2011, Kenyans for Kenyans, and then going into the election. Of course, there were challenges and there were violences politically induced and politically instigated. Then we thought immediately after the election things would settle down and wait for another 5 years. But we saw, I mean, earlier this year and last year, we saw it in Mandera County and Wajir County. There was peace arrangement that was done. Honorable Haji and Bale chaired. There was a peace agreement signed. There were even measures put in place as to what the penalties would be for those who would violate, but the peace was at Nairobi level, not on the ground. Then we saw also January, February, March, April, and almost up to early May, the issues in Moyale and Marsabit, and particularly in Moyale, where there are thousands of Kenyans who are IDPs. And then from there, we've had the Samburu, Pokot areas, we've had Pokot Turkana, we've had now in Baringo County, we've had the whole issue of Pokot and Ilchamus, where the Ilchamus have been almost being evicted from their homes. And then more recently, of course, we saw a month ago, Mandera and Wajir again, where as we sit here today, close to 50 have lost their lives over the last few months. But there are 120,000 IDPs today in Wajir and in Mandera, 80,000 in Wajir, 50,000 in Wajir, in Mandera. Like
these are all tribal
conflict between the Godia and the Garis, and then recently, of course, we saw what happened in Peketoni. But I mean, for me, it's just shocking that this is allowed to go on endlessly. And people talk of government, but I say, to me, who is the government? Is President Uhuru Kenyatta the government? Is it Minister Olelenko and Waiguru or all? I mean, for me, I'm part of the government, your government, we're all government. It's people who make this government, and people violate these basic tenets of life, and whether it's the leaders, political leaders, religious leaders, opinion leaders, these conflicts do not happen by accident.
So people violate this, and probably we don't see the consequences that we expect, and so others pick up on this and just...
Oh, for sure. I mean, this is instigated by people. It just doesn't come out of nowhere. In the case of Mandera and Wajir, they are militias. In the case of Moyale, I mean, there are militias, people who are fighting communities who are getting from across the border in Ethiopia. Both the conflict in Marsabit, Moyale have also origins or has relation to Ethiopian border. The same in Mandera and Wajir. I don't know, for the Pokot and Ilchamus one is mainly in Baringo County. The Samburu Pokot or Samburu Turkana, these are tribals. And then the Lamu one, of course, just up to now, I mean, mind-boggling. You don't know who is responsible for it and how it happened.
Right, Abbas, let's look at the psychology of Kenyans and just figure out what is it about tribe, Abbas, that puts someone to a point where they're willing to kill, maim, and destroy, looking at the experiences that you've seen on the ground?
You know, it's so shocking, Linda, just to understand what is in this person's mind. But these young people have been paid and have been encouraged by leaders in communities, whether political, religious, or business people. And it's got to a point for me where I believe that, some of these guys are totally brainwashed because they're on the payroll of some people in any case, and killing for them is nothing. Who are the victims? Women and children all the time. It's women and children. Traditionally, even when there were conflicts before, homes were never burnt. Women were never killed. They were never violated. Children were not killed. But today, I've seen right from Turkana all the way to Tana River 2 years ago. This is the order of the day today. Burn homes, kill women, kill children, even infants are being killed. So the basic tenets of value or the norms of even traditional conflict is no longer respected. And you wonder why. You wonder what has gone into people's mind, whether people have just gone totally mad. But there are people responsible for this. And for me, it's up to them, the the authority or the government to deal with these people decisively, whatever their political affiliation or thinking or grouping they belong to doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, they're violating the peace of this country and they're killing people, and they should not be allowed to kill any life.
All right. Abbas Gullet speaking to us on the bottom line. Tonight we're focusing on tribalism. Of course, we have a team in Eldoret. We have been having this discussion since yesterday. My colleague John Alanam would like to pose a question to Abbas. John, can you hear me?
All right, Linda, there's been people listening to what Abbas has been saying with regards to the conflicts that have taken place over a number of years. And right now with me is a member of the audience who'd like to ask Abbas a question. Just listen in, Yvonne, and Linda, beg your pardon, and let's have Abbas answer this question.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
You can just look into that camera.
Okay.
Yeah.
For the sake of Abbas, my name is Nathaniel Akadima. I'm from Moi University. I'm a student leader there. I have this one question. Red Cross is a humanitarian organization that assists Kenyans when there are tragedies. What is Red Cross doing so that we can be able to raise the level of consciousness that Red Cross does not only depend on donations from maybe external bodies, but just also from just Kenyans helping each other.
All right.
Willingly.
All right, Mohammed, I think there's some more opinions that we can take before Abbas answers. With respect to tribalism and hatred, please.
Patia madam hapa. Simama na useme jina yako.
I'm Maximil Okello from Bungoma County. My question is, we have been seeing Red Cross as a unifying factor to bring peace. But is it only coming in when it's unifying people in grief, or is also Red Cross coming in to help nurture a culture of peace among our people?
Shukran.
Perhaps is there one more question?
Mmoja wa mwisho hapa. Nampatia mzee hapo.
Thank you very much. My name is Michael Tieno, mechanical engineer in Eldoret Town. What I want to ask Abbas Gullet is that, do you get security intelligence of what is going to happen? And how do you assist the government?
All right, let's just stick to the topic of tribalism and the weight of our words with respect to Red Cross's role. Sorry to guide you in that direction, but that's what we're discussing.
No, that's what exactly what I'm saying, that the Red Cross at least should have some information on what's going to happen. So that's my question. I want to know whether, apart from just giving aid to those victims, is there any way the Red Cross can help the government to save the situation before it happens?
All right, question asked. Let's listen to Yvonne before we go back to Abbas.
One last question, I think, from Robert Alai. Perhaps you can just make your question very brief.
Yeah, I just want to ask Mr. Gullet on this one. You know, we're talking about ethnic relations, and the way sometimes the Red Cross responds to the calamities is sometimes dividing. When it's Mpeketoni or Westgate, it's very easy for Red Cross and other leading corporates to set up a donation number. But when it's happening in Nyakach, in Baragoi, in Wajir, it is not happening easily. I commend Red Cross for whatever they have been doing. But, you know, it's an issue which I think they should also look like, if they don't do it well, then people might start perceiving them in a very different manner.
Okay, all right. I think we can take it back to Linda Ogutu and Abbas Gullet to answer those questions from here in Eldoret.
Indeed. Abbas?
Good. I think I will start with the last one of my friend Mr. Robert Alai, because this is one that social media is very picking on. Why Westgate? Is it for bourgeois? You can launch an appeal with corporates, big companies, and when the smaller ones happen, why don't you launch an appeal? I guess my answer to this is very clear, that, Robert, we can't launch an appeal for every disaster, but I can assure you, and you know very well, Robert, Kenya Red Cross would be the first one in and the last one out in any disaster, any emergency. whether it is Kisumu, whether it's Nyakach, whether it's Migori, whether it is Siaya, whether it is Turkana, whether it's Kwale, Kilifi, Muranga, Nyeri, anywhere, Kenya Red Cross would be the first one. We have our own resources to be able to respond to emergencies. So sometimes you also have to be very fair in social media, friends and fraternity, that we can't launch because Kenyans are also fatigued. We would launch for the big ones. Even these ones of Peketoni a week ago, 10 days ago, we launched something with the Minister Anwai Guru, but you can see again how the nation was divided. But I think the classical example of when the nation comes together was Kenyans for Kenyan in 2011, was Westgate. And Westgate, I can assure you, Robert, we have been helping and paying for medical bills for all the people who are injured in Westgate. None of them have been paid by by medical insurance, even if they had cover. The insurance company said this was terrorist act, we can't pay. So we're still paying bills until now. We raised 150 million Kenya shillings. We paid bills for the Thika Road twin bus disaster. We paid for the Pangani terrorism. We are looking at paying for Gikomba, and we're still paying for long-term medical care for the Westgate. So really, the idea of every small disaster launch and appeal may not be necessary. And when we don't appeal, it doesn't mean we don't respond. We respond to all of them. So there I would say, Robert, you can be part of those who understand how this goes, and we'll show you accountability on that. In terms of the first question about resources...
Just hold on. Robert, are you good? Just hold on. Robert, are you good?
No, I just wanted to... Yeah, I wanted to ask Mr. Gullet. I wanted to ask Mr. Gullet that when sometimes you anchor your campaigns for fund or for funding on a certain area and not others, then you come and tell us that you can only do it for others and not for others. You're still making it worse. Why don't you make it a one-off campaign? You say that Red Cross only needs money to support all Kenyans, disaster anywhere it happens. But when you say that you launch a campaign for Mbweketoni and Westgate, and not for Nyakach, and not for Baragoi, and not for Wajir. I was in Turkana. It was a very commendable job you did there for Kenyans for Kenya. But sometimes the way issues are going, people are starting to see like you favor some areas, especially on campaigns. But it's very good. Red Cross has saved me a lot of times in accidents with the ambulances.
No, but Robert, that is where you and all my friends in social media need to be above this petty politics of ethnicity and tribalism. And I want to really urge, and we are big in social media as Kenya Red Cross, I repeat again, we don't have to launch an appeal for every little disaster, Robert. We would, with the two big ones we launched with the Kenyan public was K4K in 2011 because it was nationwide, and it was Westgate because it just captivated the attention of the nation. It was the worst terrorist attack that we had. So for me, we respond to all. If we don't launch an appeal, it doesn't mean we don't respond. But you would be fatigued if I come to you every week, because if you know how many fires we respond to in Mathare, Kibera, Kawangware, and all the slums in this town and in this country, you'd be shocked.
So basically you tend to all of them, it's just that you don't launch the appeal.
No, yeah, we don't.
Okay, so the next question.
So the other question is in relation to resources, the first question that was asked. And I would say in terms of resources, we are supposed to be resourced by the government. Unfortunately, today, they give us waivers on taxation and on goods and services, but we have to raise our own money. And today, largely, our basic majority of funding comes from Sister Red Crescent worldwide, and it based on disasters and emergency. But we are the first institution in the whole world within the Red Crescent family to have started our own line of business. So we run the Boma hotels in Eldoret and in Nairobi. We run the ambulance services that primarily is to alleviate human suffering, to be the pre-hospital care, but it also raises a little bit resource that we put back into our disaster kitty, and that's why we're able to respond, Linda, to all the emergencies as and when they occur. Right. For Wajir, for Moyale, for Marsabit, for Turkana, for Baringo, for Nyakach, all these places.
Great. Just before we go for a break, the last question on intelligence.
The question on firefighting, yes, we're seen as a firefighting, but our long-term programs are the major ones that we do in development, in food security, in health, in water. But on the intelligence, Obviously, we are not an intelligence body, but it is our business to know what's going on in the country. And indeed, we do get a lot of intelligence of what's happening or what may even happen. And for that matter, we dialogue and we talk to the security forces and the security apparatus in this country to be able to then to know what to do and how to respond.
So it is your business to know what goes on in the country. Do you think politicians and leaders have gotten us where we are right now?
Well, you could contribute to that, yes. I mean, I would say some of them have been reckless, and this is obvious over the years. It's not just what is happening now, but it happened, you know, in 92, it happened in 97, it happened in 2002, it happened in 2007, and it happened in 2012, 2013 also, and it's happening now, Linda. So there's nothing new.
So when we come back from this short break that we're about to take, we will be talking about the implications on the ground. We have political leaders making utterances that are tribal. What happens on the ground? We've seen in certain regions in the country, people are circulating leaflets to certain tribes, which of course we will not say on national television. But what is the effect on ground? Stay with us. KTN Bottom Line continues in just a few minutes.